Everyone, so today we're going to be doing the geometry 4.6 quiz for the periodic. It's not that hard, this one. It's mostly about trigonometric ratios and equations. Let's start. First question, what's the value of secant squared x minus 22 tan x plus 20 equals 0 when it's reduced? Tan x could either be 1 or k. What is k? So whenever we see a question like this, you need to make act like these are x and y. So here you have x squared minus y or 22y. You can't work with x and y in the same equation, so you need to find the identity that changes this to tan. And we know that secant squared x equals 1 plus tan x squared, or tan squared x. So what this means is we need to replace this, the one in the equation, with this. So 1 plus tan squared x minus 22 tan x plus 20 equals 0. So now we need to put like terms together. So 1 and the 20, we're going to just put them in the same number. 1 plus 20 equals 21. Now we need to act like this is x squared minus 22x plus 21. Factor it. So tan x minus what number when you multiply them give you 21 and when you add them give you negative 22? That would be negative 1, and they gave you a hint that one of them is when you do x minus 1 would give you 1. So, or x would be 1 minus 1 would give you 0, and the other one would be tan x minus 21 equals 0. Now, tan x could either be 1 or 21. They both would give you an answer of 0 when you replace them with it. That's how you solve question number 1. Now, let's move on to the second question. Okay, so question number 2, it's telling us, given that secant theta equals 2, which of the following could equal to theta? Now, we need to know one thing. Secant is 1 over cosine. So we need to find cosine theta gives you the reciprocal of 2. So cosine theta equals half, because it's the reciprocal. So cosine what gives you half? Now for these, I want you to memorize this table, and it's really easy to draw. So sine, you first need to do sine, cosine, tan. Write these down on your scratch paper. Then I want you to write all your angles up here. So 30 degrees, starting from 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. And then you can write them in their, radians form also, which is 0. Wait, I have them written down ready to go, so I don't have to sit memorizing or remembering them. Okay, so it's 0 or pi over 6. Wait, pi over 6 or pi over 4 or pi over 3, and this is just pi over 2. These are the radian forms, and this is the degrees form. Now I want you to write here sine 1, 2, 3. I want you to write 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I want you to put it under a radical sign. So radical 0 is 0, radical 1 is 1, radical 2 is radical 2, radical 3 is radical 3, radical 4 is 2. So then I want you to put all of them on top of 2, put the denominator to be 2. So over 2, over 2, over 2, and then 2 over 2 would be 1. Now you have all your sine. These are the signs for all these angles. Now for cosine, what I want you to do is you write them the same but the other way around. So I want you to start with 1, then radical 3 over 2, then radical 2 over 2, then half, then 0. Now for the tan, we know that tangent equals sine over cosine. So now we need to divide each of these, divide by each other. So 0 divided 1 is 0. Half divided radical 3 over 2 would be 1 over radical 3. It could be written also as radical 3 over 3. I prefer you write it like that. So radical 3 over 3, because when you rationalize it, radical 2 over 2 divided by radical 2 over 2 is 1. And then radical 3 over 2 divided, this is just radical 3. And then 1 divided by 0 is undefined because you cannot divide anything by 0. So this is your sine, cosine, tangent table. You need to memorize this table. It's really easy to draw really quickly at the start of your exam before you go in. And it will really help you. So now you need to find cosine what will give you half. You go to cosine and you go to half. It's 60 degrees or pi over 3. So secant theta is pi over 3. Now what we know about it is that secant and cosecant are positive in which quadrants? All students take chemistry. So all students take chemistry, and we know that the secant and cosine are positive in quadrants A and C, because chemistry is cosine, so and all of them are positive. So pi over 3, what we need to do is pi over 3. Since it's in here, you need to take pi over 3 and its opposite, so negative pi over 3. And then to find the rest of the angles, what you need to do is, let's say you want to find more angles that are also equal to 2. What you do is pi over 3 plus 2 pi, which is one full circle. What is 2 pi when you want to make it over 3? It's 6 over 3 pi. So when you add them, you're gonna get 7 pi over 3, right? And if you try it, you're gonna also get that 7 pi over 3 is also gonna give you 2. And you also need to add this to it, 2 pi, which is 6 pi over 3, when you want to make the denominators the same, which would be 5 pi over 3. So now we got that pi over 3, negative pi over 3, 6 pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3 will all give you, when you put secant of these, they're all gonna give you 2. And of course, since it's in quadrant 2 and 4, these angles and their opposite, so also negative 5 pi over 3 and negative 6 pi over 3 are all also gonna give you 2 when you put it secant. This is if our exam was no calculators allowed. Now, if calculators were allowed, like this periodic that we have now, I just explained all of this in case of future periodics where they're not allowed, it would be way easier. What you'd need to do is just simply take your calculator. On your calculator, write 1 over cosine, and then switch your calculator to radians. If you don't know how to do that, do shift and then mode setup. So you do on your calculator shift, then the mode setup button there in the top corner, and then you press on 3, you press on 4 and switch your calculator to radians, and then you put all of these options in your calculators and see which ones are gonna give you 2. So 1 over cosine of negative, when you put them in your calculator, you're gonna find that out of these options, it's only negative pi over 3 and pi over 3. The rest, when you put them, they're gonna give you negative 2 most likely, not the actual answer. Now, moving on. Again here, I'm gonna explain it really quickly. They can all be solved using our calculators for this periodic. What I'm gonna be explaining now is if in a future exam they tell us no calculators are allowed and we need to find them. So again, you need to use your table, the one you drew. In the table, we know that tan of we know that tan of angle 60, but let me check because I'm not sure. Yeah. Tan of angle 30, not 60. So tan 30 will give us radical 3 over 3. So now, what is 30 in radians? 30 in radians is pi over 6. So we have our circle, all students take chemistry. So for this, we have these two quadrants are going to be positive, tan. So we take pi over 6 to be our first answer, but let me just show all the options. So you need to find radical 3 over 3, tan theta. I'm going to write the question really quickly. So we know that pi over 6 is our first correct option. Now what you need to do is pi over 6 minus pi to get your second angle. Minus pi, so which is minus 6 pi over 6, same thing. So you're gonna get negative 5 pi over 6. That's your second angle. So now you have these two angles are correct angles for sure. Now to find the rest, what we need to do is you can either add pi to any of these two angles or subtract them from these two angles, and you're always going to get a correct answer. So pi over 6 plus pi, which is 6 pi over 6, is going to give you 7 pi over 6. Negative 5 pi over 6 minus pi, which is 6 pi over 6, is going to give you negative 11 pi over 6, which if I try it on my calculator, it's also gonna equal radical 3 over 3, but let me try just to make sure. Yeah, I just tried it. It also gave me the answers. But like I said again, in your exam, don't waste your time. Just change your calculator to calculate in radians and do it all in radians in your exam on your calculator. Just don't waste time. That's like my suggestion. I'm personally gonna use my calculator. I'm not gonna use this method. But in case we have a future AMS where one of these questions is brought up and no calculators are allowed, use this method for sure. Now let's move on. Okay, so here we have the exact same thing but with sine. So it's sine theta equals radical 3 over 2. If you look at your table again, you're gonna find that sine 60 gives you radical 3 over 2. 60 is pi over 3. So pi over 3 is your first angle. Now for sine, we know that for the sine graph, it's all students. So these two. So what you do for sine is pi over 3 is your first angle. Then you do pi minus pi over 3. So 3 pi over 3 minus pi over 3 gives you 2 pi over 3. This will be your second angle. So these are your two angles that give you radical 3 over 2. Now from these two angles, you have to add 2 pi to them. So pi over 3 plus 2 pi, which is 6 pi over 3, is going to give us 7 pi over 3. That's one of your options. Then to 2 pi over 3, if you add 6 pi over 3, you're going to get 8 pi over 3, which is also another correct answer. So then out of these, they didn't put 8 pi over 3, but if it was in the options, it would definitely be correct. Out of the 3 I found, these are all 3 correct options. Oh, wait, sorry, not this one. I mean, these are all 3 correct options, and this one also, but out of the options they gave us, these are the only 3 correct ones. And if it's sine, the angle will never be negative. Just saying. So these are all your correct answers. Again, in the exam, don't waste your time. Use your calculator. Now, moving on to the next question. Here, we're gonna use degrees. So, guys, don't forget, if you want to use radians, you have to change your calculator to radians. But please, please, please don't forget to rechange it back into degrees. because you're gonna get wrong answers if you solve degrees on radians setting. So cosine radical 3 over 2, which means it's cosine 30 degrees. And here we're gonna keep it degrees. Since it's cosine, all students take chemistry. So it's these two. So for these two quadrants, what you do is, it's 30 degrees and negative 30 degrees. You take the degree and its opposite, and then you add to it you can add to it 360 degrees or subtract from it 360 degrees to get all your angles. So plus 360 gives us 390, and plus 360 here gives us 330. 30 minus 360 will give us negative 330, and negative 30 minus 360 will give us negative 390. These are all correct answers. All of our answers here we're getting are correct answers. So out of these ones, they only have 330, 30, negative 30. So always when it's cosine or secant, it's the angle and the negative of the angle. So if it's 30, you always have to have the negative 30. If you had 330 as one of them, then you'd also have negative 330. It's always like this. And by the way, 360 can be 2 times 360. It's because it's keeps repeating. But yeah. Now, moving on to the next question. Here again, we have another identity that we need to use. The equation cosine squared x plus 24 sine x minus 24 equals 0. So what we do is, we know that cosine squared x equals 1 minus sine squared x. You have to memorize these. So 1 minus sine squared x plus 24x sine x minus 24 equals 0. So 1 and minus 24, when we put them together, they become minus 23. So minus 23. Now, I do not want to work with a negative sine squared ever. So we're going to divide the entire equation over negative and make it positive. So sine squared x minus 24 sine x plus 23 equals 0. Now, what we do is, again, we factor. So sine squared x minus 23 and sine into sine, oh wait, it's sine x, by the way, my bad. Sine x minus 1 equals 0. So when you multiplied negative 23 and negative 1, you get positive 23, and when you add them, you get negative 24. So you factored correct. So now, which two sine x can either equal 23 or 1? They gave you the 1, you have to put the 23. And that is it for this question. Okay, for this question, it's really easy. Just look. So, given that tan x equals negative 20 over 21 and it's obtuse, which of the following is true? Now, for these questions, I want you to take a look at all the sines and the cosines you have in your answers. And look, we know that tan is sine over cosine. So, I want you to put all the sines over the cosines. So, 20 over 29 over to negative 21 over 29. You can cancel the denominators if they're alike with each other. You'll be left with 20 over negative 21, which is the same as negative 20 over 21. So these are your only two correct answers. Unless you had one of them negative sine 20 and positive sine 21, they will give you the same answer. Just look which two, like always, find the sign with the numerator 20 and the cosine with the numerator 21. You always so the top one is your sine numerator and your bottom one is the cosine numerator. And make sure if the tangent is negative that at least one of them is negative. See, this one, it's wrong because your numerator is 21. We want our numerator to be 20. Here, it's 21 again. And here your cosine is 21, correct? But it's negative, and you have to choose two of them. So if your correct sign, which they didn't give us a correct sign, is... if your correct sign doesn't have the negative sign, then you have to choose the cosine with the negative. At least one of them has to be negative. That's it. Now, moving on to the next question. And our last question for this quiz. Given that cosine squared x equals 0.04, which of the following must be true? Now, again, like we said, so it's cosine squared x plus sine squared x equals 1. So 0.04 plus sine squared x must equal 1. So what this means is that sine squared x must equal 0.96. And that's your first option. Now to find the tangent, we know tangent is sine over cosine. So tangent square would be sine squared over cosine squared. So sine is 0.96 over 0.04. Put it into your calculator and you're going to find it to be 24. So that is your tangent. And that is it for this quiz. Hope you understood everything. Have a good day.